What's up, everybody? It's your Silicon Valley tech editor, Sequoia, and I am here with the amazing Lamman Rucker, who just got off of stage talking about some incredible things. But one thing that I want to dive into is black imagery. And the one thing that I don't think we touched upon in terms of black imagery is kind of, how do you think technology is playing a role in that?
Wow, that's kind of a broad stroke. I mean, I think I think technology, for one, is empowering a lot of people to tell the stories that a lot of people didn't get a chance to tell because they didn't have access to the technology, access to the equipment. These huge cameras cost thousands of dollars, and who has that? Not to mention the lighting, the sound, the this, the that, the other. But when you literally, in your pocket, can say, hey, I've got an idea, or I've got something to say, or there's something that I feel the need to respond to, and hopefully respond to intelligently, not just impulsively. But at the same time, in all fairness, sometimes the freedom to be, free and spontaneous about what you have to say is also valid.
Yeah.
At the same time, the consequence to everything that I'm saying is that, unfortunately, everybody has a camera, and everybody got something to say. And a lot of times, it's not always anything very profound, productive, positive, or anything. So it's great that more people get to have access to the opportunity to express their voice, find their voice even. At the same time, we have to work, I think, put more effort into the quality control without it being censored.
Yeah.
But just just a better conversation about quality and accountability, even, if you will, about how we say what we need to say, and to make sure we're saying it in a way that can actually impact some positive change, as opposed to simply, I got to get something off my chest, and then the reverberations of that create consequences, as opposed to encouraging any real consciousness. You know what I'm saying? So, but it's great that the technology exists now for some really profound things to happen, and some really sharp folks doing some really incredible things. So it's encouraging, yeah.
So how do you think, in terms of, because you're talking about differentiation, so with that being said, in terms of quality of content and what we have access to put out, not having to go through the studio systems and networks, and actually, like Issa Rae, for example, amazing example of going from Awkward Black Girl to Insecure. How do you think we create that delineation so that we are putting out that content that's actually speaking to the studios to greenlight? Because in a sense, we're going from not wanting to go get greenlit from them, but then ultimately needing their budgets, right?
Right, and it's the same inverse need from the studios. They're always in need of content. Yep. And they're always looking for, okay, what's everybody doing? Where's everybody going? And unfortunately, typically they're copycats more so than many, the studio system really isn't typically about much innovation or risk taking. It's an institution that's been around for too long, and is too volatile, and it's, again, it's too high a risk proposition to say, you know what, we have no evidence that this may work, but we believe it's the right thing to do. Let's just go for it. There's hell to pay, and people will lose jobs if it doesn't work. But on an independent level, you can say, you know what, I've never done this before. I believe in what we're about to do. To hell with it. Let's go for it. And then it's amazing sometimes what you discover. And once you discover something, even if in the process you discover something, even if you don't know, you haven't discovered anything that you're then gonna run with, you're still trying, like I said even earlier, trying to find your voice. A lot of times some very profound and incredible things happen, and then if you stay with it, if you continue to do it from a pure place, if it has honesty and authenticity to it, it's almost inevitable for somebody else not, it's how can anybody not notice?
Yeah.
but it takes a while. You know, Issa Rae had been doing Awkward Black Girl for a little while.
Yeah.
You know, so that's something that spoke to a lot of people, not only young women of color. You know, that as a good friend of mine likes to say, that code switch, that being an urban chameleon is what she calls it, is, you know, and at the same time, regardless of whether there's that ethnic identity dynamic to it, any young person coming out of college trying to figure the world out, right? How do I make this shift to being a young professional? How do I make a living for myself? How do I fit into the workplace? How do I still find love? How do I, you know, who are my friends? Who can I trust? I mean, all of this stuff. How can I have a good time, you know, and still get up and get my butt to work on time, you know? How much do I have to diminish my true identity in order to fit in? And then at the same time, how much do I say, to hell with y'all, I'm here, this is who I am? I mean, you know, everybody gets that. Everybody, no matter where you come from, no matter what race you are, everybody gets that. So that's the brilliance of stuff. Even when we take our cultural filter or our cultural lens, if there was a way that we could actually like remove like the color filter from our story, everybody from every other culture and color can still see themselves. So the brilliance in all it is, we don't have to remove that filter. We can still be authentic, honest Black people and still appeal to all these other folks who don't look like us, because our journey is very similar and very common with theirs. And that's actually what we need to do more of, I think, is show what binds us and what aligns us and connects us to one another, instead of trying to look at all the differences, you know, to try to purposely separate ourselves from one another. Oh, that's just a Black show. Oh, that's just, you know, oh, that's just for an Asian demographic. Or, oh, that's just for kids. That's just for old people. Now, what's appropriate for children? Okay. They can't watch this because I do believe that's not appropriate. At the same time, once one of your young people starts getting to a particular age, I've got preteens, or I've got, you know, 16, 17-year-old, you know, boy or girl in my home. There might be something about Insecure, or at least an episode or two, that might be appropriate to expose them to. So, because what's happening with them at that age and the phase that they're getting ready to go into, going into college or whatever, there's probably things about that, and seeing somebody that looks like them and seeing this story being told, it's like, oh, I get it. Or, you know, as we've all done at some point, oh, it's not just me. You know, I'm not the only one who
I know this life.
I'm not the only one who's lost and trying to figure this out. So it's great that these things, you know, exist, and that we have the opportunity to, you know, to do it. And the technology exists. You know, the great ideas exist. The innovation is actually out there, and now we just have to kind of connect it to. Where's the brilliance? Where are the minds? Where's the courage? Where's the content? And then how do we connect that to the mediums, the money, you know, and the machinery. So you know, I'm trying to stick with my little alliteration right there. You know what I'm saying? You know. But
I love the top-down filter and the idea of us being able to at least control that content.
Absolutely.
So what do you think in terms of the shift, in terms of where technology is going with augmented reality, virtual reality? How do we then implement ourselves into those spaces, because we are not there?
Well, similarly, we've got to have the vision to see ourselves there. We can't just say, oh, that's for the nerds, or oh, that's for the gamers, and you know, that's not really us. We don't really fit into that. You know, I did an awesome film a number of years ago called "I'm Through with White Girls." Is actually what it was initially called. It's the inevitable undoing of Jay Brooks was the subtitle. Great film, and part of the theme was who is it to say what any of this means, Who is it to say that Black people don't do that? Who is it to say that that kind of guy isn't supposed to date that kind of girl, and that kind of girl isn't supposed to date that kind of guy? So, excuse me, it's this story of these two childhood friends, myself and an incredible brother, Anthony Montgomery, who plays Jay Brooks. And as young kids, We're very much alike. We got a lot in common, but just naturally as we evolve into two different adults. We still love each other. We're still best friends. We're still connected, but we're very different socially, very different in the women that we date, very different in our career trajectories, right? So the story takes place with my character's about to get married, and Jay's still trying to figure out, you know, what love is, his averse relationship to being in a relationship, you know what I'm saying, as well. But it's also that he's black, but most people's like, oh, whatever, you're not black. Right. He's in the indie rock music. He's a graphic novelist. He primarily dates white girls, you know? So it's a real significant part of it is his journey in trying to figure out not so much how he identifies or where he fits in. He's kind of found that. But then how do I give myself permission to continue to just be me and still believe there's somebody that's right for me? But also, we need to open our minds to understand there are more black men, black boys, black girls, just like him, who might not fit into our framework of what it means to be black. But if we can actually see ourselves like him, we might have the courage to start doing other stuff that's not supposed to be what black people do, right? And sometimes I believe it's that limited self-image of our own that stops us from being more, you know, explorational, more curious, taking more risks and doing other things. I think we'd see ourselves less in sports and music and see ourselves, you know, again, building virtual reality platforms and being gamers or creating, you know, being coders and all of that, you know, being venture capitalists in that space, whatever it is, even learning how to market and publicize and develop and create concept and so forth in that space. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. So why aren't we positioning ourselves and conceptualizing ourselves and, you know, visualizing ourselves in that arena? We should. And so that's a conversation that we need to continue to have with ourselves. And I mean, this being a microcosm of, and then we've got to also create access. We've got to get more of us in that space so we can open a door for more of us and educate and expose more of us. I mean, there's Yes We Code and Black Girls Code and all these other organizations that are out there doing. I've got a degree in IT, you know. My wife's in cybersecurity. I mean, stuff like that. So things like that. I mean, I know plenty of people in that space, but not enough, and not as many people who know about how many people there actually are. So I look forward to more of us doing all of that, and I can't wait to do more of it as well, in front and behind the camera. So it's gonna be exciting to see how all that continues to grow and evolve with us in the equation. You know, not just watching it happen around us without us actually being in the conversation, seeing ourselves on that side of the table.
Awesome. Consumers and producers.
That's right.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate your time today, and thank you for being at Black Men Xcel and bringing us
that's what I am.
Of your greatness.
A black man who excels. That's what we do. Thanks for having me, Sequoia.
Thank you.